life is challenging and it's coincidences. And I went up to Mr. Benetton and we discussed, as we used to do every year, the goal for the future, whether it was a 1 year or 3 years plan or whatever. And I know that I tried to explain to him that I needed a new challenge, and not necessarily more money for the budget, because I said, why don't we try to, we had the first ever scouting, let's say, group in Europe. We were the first club that invested resources, human resources and financial resources in creating a scouting office. A small team of, like an Italian team of a city of 85,000 people in an NBA draft 1 year had 3 players in the draft. That's to tell you how good the scouting was. And I said, why don't we go young? Why don't we just try to play with our young players, just to have a different challenge? And the idea was, no, let's try to keep consistent the way we've been doing for so many years. But he was such a special person. I'm saying was because he just, recently passed away, and he immediately understood that I can feel it, that you want a different challenge, and feel comfortable to go the way you want to go, because this will always be your home, and you're going to be, in our family all the time. And I have to say that I was leaning more to a new experience with the EuroLeague club when I received an unexpected call from the NBA, and the guy on the phone, Brian Colangelo, told me, hey, if tomorrow they like my ideas and get me as a president of the Toronto Raptors, would you like to be my right-hand guy? And it took me just 5 seconds to say, hey, if this means being part of the decision-making process, then I'm ready to come. And that's how the decision developed very, very quickly. We won the first ever Atlantic Division title, which today with a very good Raptors team seems more, let's say, normal. When one of our key players was today's Spanish Federation President Jorge Garbajosa, and when Garbajosa went down with a terrible injury, that kind of cut our chances. Still, we had the best record ever, and we won the division title. Yeah. It was a great experience as well, because not only because of the traveling that we ended up doing together all around the world to play games, but the connection with special people, special players. In a way, I feel like I somehow contributed to a process that today, as Canada, grown a lot into the overall world ranking, and with many protagonists at the NBA level, and everything has changed. Everything has changed and developed so much, and Canada has everything to be a very successful basketball country. I'm saying basketball country because Canada is a hockey nation. Yeah. And everything is, is hockey. Hockey is that's the let's say referring point. Yeah. But the success of basketball, Raptors specifically, and somehow the changing of the DNA of the population coming in, I think brings more focus on basketball and soccer and football than ever before. Yeah. So they have better chances, I think, especially basketball, to become more of a very important sport in Canada. I think you learn a lot as how to live your experience inside of an organization on that side of the ocean. You learn things that you don't fully experience and feel when you're here until you get there. For example, I can give you different examples in different fields. Scouting. When a club asks scouting credentials at the beginning of a season to the NBA headquarters, you fill up a list of scouts. And if you look at the list of scouts of any NBA franchise, the first one is the president, and then GM, and then assistant GM. Everybody's a scout. Yeah. Everybody goes around to evaluate talent. So you have to travel and go and watch games and evaluate players and come back with your feedbacks and implement your database, because you need as much gathering of information as possible. That's one side. The other side is other sides of an organization. From ticketing, you know how many times they put us on the phone and call people, hey, why don't you renew your season tickets? Why don't you come back? We're going to have a good team. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. And you try to convince people. Then the relationship with potential sponsors. You know, I still remember my breakfast at the Air Canada Centre, now it's Scotiabank Arena, but, you know, coming and meeting 30 people from one company, having breakfast with them and trying to explain, hey, this is who the Raptors are, this is where we're heading, this is what we want to accomplish. Every time there was a home game, you had your own duties, but at the same time you had to be available to meet a group of fans, to meet a businessman, to meet, you know, your life is completely inside the logic of an organization, and you learn something out of each area of an organization. Something that you can, then you have to try to translate into coming over here.